This unimaginable suffering was set in motion by Hamas on October 7th, and the United States has not been shy about criticizing this council's failure to condemn Hamas's atrocities and repeated violations of international law. Many in this council have not done as of yet. At the same time, the United States has made clear to Prime Minister Netanyahu that 1 year into this conflict, Israel must address the catastrophic humanitarian crisis in Gaza, that the United States rejects any Israeli efforts to starve Palestinians in Jabalia or anywhere else, and that Israel's words must be matched by action on the ground. Right now, that is not happening. This must change immediately. The U.S. has stated clearly that Israel must allow food, medicine, and other supplies into all of Gaza, especially the north, and especially as winter sets in, and protect the workers distributing it. In this regard, I reiterate our deep concerns about legislation adopted by the Knesset regarding UNRWA. There's no denying the fact some UNRWA personnel were involved in the October 7 attacks. This council heard directly from families of hostages taken into Gaza by UNRWA staff, as we just heard from the Israeli ambassador. UNRWA itself has confirmed that there were some Hamas members found among its personnel. In addition, though we acknowledge the steps UNRWA has taken to implement the reforms outlined in the Colonna report, we need this progress to accelerate. At the same time, we know that right now there is no alternative to UNRWA when it comes to delivering food and other life-saving aid in Gaza. Therefore, we have concerns about this legislation being implemented. Instead of speaking at one another, Israel and the UN must speak to one another to address the fears that led to the Knesset's legislation and to ensure that UNRWA can fulfill its critical mandate, rebuild confidence in its mission, and the hundreds of staff who are not associated with Hamas.
In terms of the situation in Gaza, we'd echo the comments of others within the UN. This situation could not be, the needs of the Palestinian people cannot be met without the support of UNRWA, which has been providing support to the Palestinian community for many, many years. Of course, we in the international humanitarian community with others are providing humanitarian assistance, do stand ready to provide more to those who are in need. It's really a question of being able to access those who need us most. UNRWA now has provided basically the backbone of infrastructure within places like Gaza. They provide education, they provide healthcare, they provide some of the most basic needs for people who have been living there for decades. That's not something that IOM does. What IOM does well and what IOM is doing and can do more of with the support of the various stakeholders is to provide humanitarian support. So support to those who are displaced, support to those who need shelters, support to those who need hygiene kits, to support to those who do not have sufficient access to protection. That's where IOM can play a role. So there's no way for IOM to step in to do what UNRWA has done. UNRWA is absolutely essential to the people of Gaza. And I don't want to leave anyone with the misimpression that IOM can play that role, because we cannot.
The voting of last night is forbidding the contacts between Israel state entities and the United Nations Relief at Work is extremely worrying. Why? I will tell you, because the consequences are extremely worrying and are making impossible for UNRWA vital operations in Gaza to operate. As we see it, there is no alternative to UNRWA as we speak. UNRWA provides essential services to millions of people in Gaza, but not only, to the West Bank, including East Jerusalem and across the region, including Lebanon, Syria, Jordan. This legislation stands in stark contradiction with international law and fundamental humanitarian principle of humanity. So what we are doing right now is that we do urge the authorities to reconsider in order to prevent disruption of UNRWA's life-saving services and ensure continued and unhindered humanitarian access for UNRWA to the Palestine refugees.
We have made quite clear to the government of Israel that we are deeply concerned by this proposed legislation. The Secretary raised this in the letter that he sent with Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of Defense to Minister of Defense Gallant and Minister of Strategic Affairs Dermer a little over 2 weeks ago. As he made clear in that letter, passage of this legislation could have implications under U.S. law and U.S. policy. That remains the case. Look, UNRWA plays a critical, important role in delivering humanitarian assistance to civilians that need it in Gaza. That's not the only role they play. They play an important role providing services to Palestinians in the West Bank and throughout the region as well. But they really play an irreplaceable role right now in Gaza, where they are on the front lines getting humanitarian assistance to the people they need it. There's nobody that can replace them right now in the middle of the crisis.